We're back.
Yeah, it's been a while, eh, viewership?
Our viewership. I have to keep adjusting my levels. I'm still too loud. Yeah, we're back to Pop Culture Happy Hour because I saw a movie and I wanted to talk about it. Anyways, hello.
Wow. It's almost like I, too, saw a movie as well.
Yeah, it's almost like we watch movies and we want to talk about them.
I love the smell of cinema.
So, yes. Hello, welcome back to Pop Culture Happy Hour. This is a little podcast if you're new here and you didn't actually see the originals. At the end screen and in the description, and most likely in the comments as well, there will be a link to the full playlist for all the episodes, including this one, just so you can get yourself caught up. Today, the general, we always say that we have like a theme for these episodes, but really, the amount of times that we've gone on random tangents has gotten to the point where we can't really say that anymore. We start with a theme.
Pretty crazy.
We start with a theme and then we do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So today's theme is religion in general, just as like as it has to do with pop culture and because I saw a film called Jesus Revolution recently. And what film did you see, Jack?
It's actually an old Disney film. I'm not sure you heard of it. It's quite obscure. It's called Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, truth. So, just so we can get some things clear, I would consider myself an atheist. And Jack, I believe you're Christian, but would you like to say what denomination?
I don't practice, but the ideals of Christianity I align the most with is Episcopalianism.
Episcopalianism. Alright. That's fair. So, yeah. Jesus Revolution is the story of this one guy whose name is eluding me. I'll probably put it on screen now. Who put together one of the biggest startup churches in human history at this point. And it all started because of one pastor who was able to allow himself to see another side, because this was during the time of like the hippie movement and all that stuff that was happening. This pastor was one of the first pastors who actually allowed hippies into their church, and just to like give them a place of worship and a place to learn about God. And it was a very moving it was very moving in a lot of ways.
This is a biopic, right?
It's a biopic. Yeah. I would say it's less embellished than a lot of biopics.
I was about to say, is it as embellished as your average Baz Luhrmann movie?
It's not as embellished. I think it's about as embellished as Bohemian Rhapsody, to where, obviously, just for the sake of a story, they had to change stuff, but for the most part, it was very true to life.
Right.
It was very moving, and I did cry 2 times during that movie. It was a very, very good movie. I saw that one with my mom. She agreed with me that it was just one of the best Christian movies in recent memory, just because it was actually, written by screenwriters and not pastors. I think that's, I think that's always been like the big problem with Christian movies, is they don't actually get writers to write them, they just write it themselves.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of this play that I saw, because as some people might be able to tell considering the time of year and the gap between episodes. I'm in college now.
We're both in college at this moment in time, yeah.
Yeah, and in one of my classes called Theater Appreciation, we learned about this. We learned about this woman by the name of Roswitha, who was a Christian playwright in the medieval ages,
Interesting.
and she wrote plays. And I read one of the plays. I can't remember the name.
Sorry, hold on. I have to run that back. Yes, you say a Christian playwright. She wrote plays.
Yes.
Yeah, I would.
Shocking, isn't it?
Shocking, incredibly so. Oh my! Why do I keep peeking? Okay, you keep going while I adjust levels.
Yeah, it also reminded me because I remember. Actually, hold on. I think I have the book. Let me check something.
Yeah, you're good. Is that good? I feel like that should be good.
No, not the mountain song.
The audio issues in this are gonna be wild. Let me tell you.
Yep. I can't really speak for certain because we can't see the future. We don't have that Mr. VHS thing from Spaceballs.
At the very least, I'll be able to adjust levels more accurately on Familiar 9, but I'm gonna have to do a lot of finagling, because that it's gonna be difficult.
Okay, so yeah, I can't find the book, but it was this play about a few sisters and a dumbass emperor.
Like most emperors.
It was a what they call a mystery play, but back then mystery wasn't like how we define mystery. Mystery was basically plays about acts of God.
Interesting. Okay.
It's either that or miracle plays. Although I think miracle plays were more about plays about actual biblical events.
So,
But
oh, interesting. Okay. So
but
miracle play would be more like your Prince of Egypt's in terms of like modernizing that.
yes, except the reason why I've entirely gotten on this point was because these plays were not written by playwrights. They were written by pastors and priests and nuns first.
I see.
So basically, you can tell that Roswitha's plays, when looked at in a modern lens, they're the equivalent of God's Not Dead.
Okay, interesting.
They're not good.
Oof. That's harsh criticism from a freshman college student. Anyways.
Just someone who's found
no.
happy hour for a reason.
Fully joking. But I love when like random people, and again we go off on tangents, bear with me. But I love when college students act like they're the authority of any given piece of media.
I'm not trying to act like an authority. I just say that, in my personal opinion, this play fucking sucks.
No, I'm talking about like other people, because I've seen people here at Mason who are just like, this movie sucks and here's why you should hate it, and then I'm like, well, I actually kind of liked it. And it's like, no, you cannot like it, it's a bad movie. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, there's a reason why I got out of Virginia, and also that sounds an awful lot like film Twitter.
It sounds like all of Twitter, to be fair.
Yeah.
Twitter, we're not going to talk about Twitter. We'll get into that another time, but not today, please. You wanted to talk...
Yeah, it's episode 5.
I don't know what fucking episode we're on at this point. I think we're on episode 7. I'll have to check. Hold on, I'm gonna check that really quick. YouTube Studio, save me.
Professionals.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Our last episode... Good God. Oh, playlists... We have. Oh, this is the fifth episode. Our last
So
one.
save it for episode 6.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Our last one was November 16th, 2020. It has been.
2020?
Yeah, exactly. It's because these last 3 years have blown by so fucking fast because of the whole COVID situation. And it's like.
Yeah.
So it's been basically 2 years and a half. Jesus Christ. We're recording this on the 16th of April, so you'll be able to guess how long it took me to edit this, which it shouldn't take long. For the most part, I just upload what we did, just us talking, because that's just kind of how podcasts work. But
Yeah.
obviously, like, helpful visuals are just a necessity. Um, but with the amount of work I've been doing on my album, and then also on just like other music stuff that I have to get done.
Yeah, I think like you're actually part of an indie game team now.
Yeah, I can't disclose much legally.
Yeah, because it's an NDA. I didn't expect you to disclose much.
Yeah, it's I can't really disclose anything. I might put the Patreon for it in the description, but I'd have to ask for permission from the people who run it. Um, but it's a really cool little thing. I think I can say as much as it's a dystopian game. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping that my ability to write music for it is gonna be is gonna help for that aesthetic. But anyways, Hunchback. I believe you wanted to talk about Claude Frollo.
Yeah, because I was about to say, thanks to like dystopia and it and that actually got me to the point of Hunchback of Notre Dame, and more specifically, a different, a judge, but in the original story, he's a priest that was completely different from the one you encountered in Jesus Revolution, Claude Frollo. And uh, it one thing that stuck out to me is what I believe the channel called Cinema Therapy, which I highly recommend. They basically do like they go through movies and they detail like different
Yeah.
disorders and ways to therapy for
I
them.
watched the recent video on Everything Everywhere, and I cried again. That movie made me feel things as well.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason why it did the EEAAO sweep at the Oscars.
EAO. The Oscars
It's a
this year.
vocal
Isn't it
exercise.
surprising that the Oscars this year were actually kind of good?
Yes, they were,
Despite,
except for Jimmy Kimmel.
yeah,
I want to punch him in the face.
despite the fact that they only had the animated movies for the animated movie part of the show, just the one award.
Yeah, that still sucks. More animated movie representation. But anyways, back from one animated movie to another animated movie.
Yeah, we're
Cloud,
tangents
yeah, Cloud
people. We love
Frollo.
them. Um,
Yeah, Cloud Frollo partakes in what cinema therapy calls spiritual abuse.
yeah, it, that movie. I feel like not enough people respect that movie for what it did. Like, obviously, Claude Frollo is beloved as one of the best Disney villains, because, yeah, but that whole movie is such a good representation of what religious people actually did during the time at which that movie is set.
Yeah,
Because there were some
it is
bad
it is
people.
sobering.
It's sobering. Um, I just realized in the recording, I might have to cut it out of the final cut, but in the recording I have here, um, because of how Discord works, all of the AKAs, like your names on other servers, are at the top. So you see Artyom Petrenko, Godzilla Jr.
Oh yeah, that's a running gag on another server, and the other is my D&D character.
Yeah, it'll be
We can just cut this.
well, but Claude Frollo, I feel like the most interesting thing to say about Claude Frollo is how evil he is, but he doesn't really have any other. He's pretty one-dimensional in how he's just an evil guy. I don't think there's much more to be said about him besides that. So I think that's the one problem I could kind of levy against Claude as a villain.
Yeah, but I actually got something different. It's more, I found him intriguing because of how evil he is. And how all this time, it's almost like he's trying to justify himself and basically still think that he's a soldier for God.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, in my humble opinion, if he were to stand before the big man, he'd be tossed down to hell without a second thought.
It's a very interesting thing to think about when that sort of stuff happens, because it has happened in real life a lot, where people believe they're like being godly, and really all they're doing is being a bad person.
Yeah, I think it's like you could definitely cement Cloud Frollo, especially as evil and especially creepy in ways that would end up being brought up later in the 21st century when it comes to the Catholic Church, especially when he sniffs Esmeralda's hair.
Yeah,
Reminder that Esmeralda is fucking 16.
Yeah, that one was a little bit.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, and this is actually based on one of the songs, Hellfire.
Oh.
It seems. So you are aware of Hellfire, right?
Yeah, of course. It's one of the best music. It's
one of the best songs of the Disney Renaissance.
It is arguably the best villain song of all time. I wouldn't say it is, but people have argued as much.
Yeah, it's. But the thing is, for me, what goes into Hellfire, because Hellfire was actually like a big reason why I wanted to talk about Frollo, and I'm just gonna go fly into music. So I think we're going into a whole bunch of stuff, but I think at the beginning of the song, a whole bunch of clergymen. I'm not sure of their exact positions, but it's as Notre Dame, I think, is closing down. They start singing a song in Latin.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
But you go first.
I believe,
I'll go.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that was the Dies Irae.
It's actually not the Dies Irae. It's actually a song. It's actually a song about confession. Basically saying that, my Lord, I have sinned. I ask for your forgiveness in any sins I may have committed.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and that's extra funny. And that's extra funny considering the fact that Cloud Frollo, during the entirety of Hellfire, is shifting the blame from himself to someone else. And just the entire direction of the song as well just further cements Cloud Frollo's fall. Because take a look. I think you might be able to get like a shot on screen if Disney doesn't fucking copy strike this video.
It'll be a still image, so that should not be enough for a copy strike.
Yeah, fair enough. If you look at a shot of where Claude Frollo is standing, and I assume that to be his house, there is the fireplace, and then right above is a big, I believe it's a cross or just some Christian symbol on the wall. And it's very cool. It's a very cool shot, but it also speaks to Frollo's character where he isn't actually talking to, like, he originally starts talking to the cross on the wall, but as the song continues, there's a moment where he switches and he starts singing his song to the fire.
Yeah. I feel like little visual things like that are very, again, it's just underappreciated. And then, like, all this stuff of, like, being able to see through his eyes and what his feelings are, even if he is an evil man, Hellfire is, like, his admittance to what he thinks is correct.
Yes, and it's also, especially, I think it was, and then this next bit will definitely go into how I believe, just like into my religious beliefs.
Sure.
But it's most especially that moment where Frollo sings, "It's not my fault that in God's plan he made the devil so much stronger than a man." Just like in that moment, if to be completely blunt, I instantly knew any hope for Cloud Frollo's salvation was lost.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing to see that in a
Yeah,
movie, because not enough people understand how people are lost in their own religion, I guess, in their own beliefs. Because
yeah,
you'll see people who are out here being incredibly radical, and you'll think, how did they get that way? Well, there you go. They're stuck in their own beliefs to the point where they don't think that anyone else is able to believe anything else.
yeah. And this is where I start really getting into more religious language. But the fact that, and this will be a bit of a religious tangent, but it's the fact that he says they made the devil so much stronger than a man. That I believe is what brings him over, ironically, to the basically the side of the devil,
Sure.
because at least in my eyes, the devil is weak. He is not. He is not that. He is not all that.
Yeah.
And
Within.
and and basically, just if you're strong enough, you can easily just get rid of his influence. You can live your life without without being without being a bad person if you can just ignore his temptation. And that's why he goes into temptation, because he's weak. He goes through brute force and he's going to get his butt kicked easily.
Well, and I think that's kind of the point, right? I don't
Yeah.
think.
So that when
I think
so when Frollo
I think I see your point here. Problem being that the first biblical story in pretty much any version of the Bible of Adam and Eve kind of disproves you there. While the devil obviously the devil is portrayed as a snake, physically weak but temptatious, and like it's the whole thing of like the snake in the grass metaphor, where your his ability to tempt people into dangerous situations is more akin to what he's able to do, right? And it's the same. I would say it's the same with God on the other side of the coin, where it's he's trying to tempt people into the right way. So both of them are physically weak, and then you have Jesus who kind of meets in the middle as like the savior of man, who is able to resist the temptation of the devil. But the problem is, if even the first humans to ever exist, who are and always probably will be within the Bible the purest humans besides God, to besides Jesus, to exist, if even they are able to are not able to resist the devil's temptation even a little bit, then that's a problem that all humans will have to deal with. So I see where your point is coming from, but I don't know if it's valid. I would say saying the devil is so much stronger than a man. I think what he's saying that he sees the devil in this person that he has been seen to be attracted to. I think that's where I would see it as, oh, he's been lost. Because he is attracted to Esmeralda, and yet he's talking about Esmeralda as if she is the devil.
That's fair. If I'm completely honest, I feel, in my personal view, I always saw Genesis not really as historical truth, but more just a moral tale. Because despite me being Christian, I also very much believe in science. I know the Big Bang happened. I know billions of years passed before we started walking the Earth.
I think hold back a bit there, because nobody knows that the Big Bang happened. It's unproven how the universe began. We don't even know if it did begin. It's the same thing with time. If it has no beginning, then how will it end? Is such a poignant question, if you've ever heard the song "Ruler of Everything" by Tally Hall, it kind of delves into that. Um, but it's this interesting, like, and this is like a scientific tangent, but it's this interesting thing of like, if we can prove that the universe has a definitive beginning, then it must have also a definitive end. But if there is no provable definitive beginning, then we cannot prove a definitive end. We cannot say the same for the Earth, which we know came about, as you said, billions of years ago. Um, we know that the definitive end for the Earth, if it isn't by like another mass extinction event, it will be through the our sun going supernova or dying out. So if we have something that we know has a definitive beginning, it must have a definitive end. And I think what's very interesting about that is that that kind of was explored through religion before we even knew that we were exploring it. Because God has no definitive beginning, therefore he has no definitive end. Right? So it's very interesting to think about that kind of stuff, because I feel like it would be more interesting to think about God as if he is some celestial, if he is real, if he is some celestial being, then he will not die. So what happens when the sun inevitably explodes and goes supernova?
Yeah, it is those concepts of existentialism that, if I am completely honest, they're not okie dokie for me.
I feel like
I don't like getting into them.
yeah, because I feel like if God were real, and I understand your beliefs and I respect you for them, but for my own thinking, if God were real, then we would have at least some proof for it. But as of right now, and this could change, my views could change here, but as of right now, on in 2023, we have no like concrete, physical, tangible proof of a any god, any tangible god existing. And I don't like the excuse that get a lot of, oh, he is nebulous and intangible, because that means, well, then anything could be true. Like then you have like then you're letting in like the positarianists who believe in the flying spaghetti monster in the sky.
Oh, oh no, not them.
Not them. But it's very funny to me that people, I'll have people try and convert me, and I'm just like, okay, if you can give me tangible proof of God, and they hand me like a Bible or some shit, and I'm like, dude.
Yeah, at least when it comes to how I view things, sometimes I like to take a quote from the Polar Express, where it is, sometimes seeing is believing, but sometimes, the key word being sometimes the most believable things in the world are the things we can't see.
That's actually a very poignant quote.
The reason Polar Express is my favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah, and Polar Express, man. Because I feel like in science there's some things that we can. There are so many like theory and okay. First of all, let me not say theory, because scientifically a theory is not the same as like a theory in layman's terms.
Yeah, it's just a theory, a game theory.
So the amount of hypotheses, I should say, that have come out about like, have you heard that whole thing about how like certain particles are different when they are not observed?
Oh yeah, quantum particles, I believe.
We can't prove that, because if we can't observe the particles being different, because because they are only different when they're not being observed, then that's not provable. But it's the same thing of like Schrodinger's cat, where like we can hypothesize about this and we can like try to rationalize that, but we'll never be able to prove it. And I think that's like the whole crux of like theory, like theoretical anything, where it's like coming up with hypotheses and then like saying, okay, is there a way to disprove this? And with a lot of things, yeah, you with a lot of things, like we've gotten to the point where there is no real way to disprove what we found out. But with this quantum particle theory, it's very easy to sort of look at it and say, well, that's kind of ridiculous, right? Because if we can't observe the unobservable particles that are different when not observed, then what are we doing? Anyways, that sort of stuff is very weird. Like I don't know how to explain that in a more in a simpler way, just because it's very complicated. Because scientific theory,
theoretical physics for a reason.
yeah, it's theoretical. It's stuff that cannot be proven. However, in science, theory has a different meaning. But theoretical physics is what it actually means, like in layman's terms. It's physics that we can hypothesize about. But a scientific theory, like the theory of gravity, have our how do I explain this best? Scientific theories are the best explanation when observing all of our gathered evidence about that phenomenon, right? So,
Right.
like the theory of gravity, our theories of relativity, all of those sorts of stuff are scientific theories. But then, like, if your car breaks down, for example, and you say, I have a theory about why it's broken, that's just kind of like a guess, right? An educated guess, maybe, but it's still like a guess. So I think that's where a lot of people get confused about the theory of gravity, because they're like, well, hasn't it been proven? Well, yeah, but also no. Like, because gravity as a scientific theory is very, because we put our own term to it, which is gravity. But gravity itself is just it's not a force. It's what holds things together. But what's very interesting about gravity is that it's not technically a force. It's just a constant. Anyways, enough of that.
Yeah, we started about religion, and then we got into theoretical physics.
And then gravity for whatever reason. I think when looking at religious media in general, too much of religious media is controlled by people who don't have the layman's best interest in mind. So, like, you'll have people, priests, preachers, whatever, who make movies for their people, but then everyone else is kind of left in the background, and nobody else besides those specific people can watch this movie and actually enjoy it, or like whatever they're trying to do. It's like it's the same issue that people had with Velma, where the views in that show were so specific to a certain group, to where everybody else had no enjoyment watching it.
Yeah, it's like one of those. It's like sometimes where you see movies that are like made, quote, for the fans of a video game, and yet they go so deep that the average person is left in the dust.
Yeah.
Granted, there's a balancing act, because sometimes when something is made, quote, for a wider audience, then it leads to the actual soul of whatever franchise they're working with being completely lost.
Did you see
But
the Halo show?
yes,
It fucking sucked. I did not enjoy
yes,
myself.
Pablo Schreiber, the guy who played Chief,
Mhm.
great actor, great person. I will say that. I wish he got a better role so he could show off why he actually deserves the role of
I
Chief.
know. And then you have okay, well, and then like you'll have when religious, because the most successful religious movies, including Jesus Revolution, were made by companies that actually specialize in writing and producing movies. So you have this clear marking of what makes a religious movie good, and then all these people just ignore it, right? It's very ridiculous.
Yeah,
Oh,
that actually also reminds me of another film that was like made by genuine screenwriters,
huh.
but also delves on religious subjects.
Uh-huh.
Are you aware of the film known as Hacksaw Ridge?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, basically, it's about this real guy named Desmond Doss, who was a United States Marine during World War II, and he was a medic and a conscientious objector.
Interesting.
And conscientious objectors means that you completely swear off violence.
Oh
So
yeah,
that means you
it's
can't even
the
hold a gun.
I just looked it up. Yeah, it's the Andrew Garfield one.
Just all of his stories, it can be interpreted as just a regular tale of. What I like is that it can be interpreted as a regular tale of triumph of the human spirit, but it can also be told as like a story of a belief in God, because you look at what Desmond Doss has done, like take a look at his historical records, especially during that battle that actually won him the Medal of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, let's just say he did crazy stuff.
What the fuck, Mel Gibson?
Wait,
Why
what about Mel Gibson?
he directed the movie? The fuck?
Mel Gibson directed a good movie?
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? Anyways,
Yeah, but like there have been multiple accounts of him during Okinawa literally kicking away grenades.
I like how I said that like it was a shock that he made a good movie, but no, he made like Braveheart and the Mad Max movies. Like he's a good director, but I was like not expecting the name, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I
sometimes you
also
just.
love how we pick the one director that also made Passion of the Christ, which is the most accurate depiction of a biblical story.
I mean, yeah, it's fucking Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, it's great. Even though even though people didn't like it because apparently it was offensive.
How? How?
Because of how it portrayed Jewish people, obviously. Even though that's how the Bible says that stuff. Here's what's interesting about that. It is that I feel like too many people put all the blame on the Romans when, and I've talked to you about this, but Pontius Pilate gave the people enough chances to just be like, okay, I don't see good reason to put this man to death, so we should just let him free. Like he even gave them the choice between Jesus Christ and a serial murderer to put to death, and they chose Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was not aware of that, but I was aware about him giving people multiple chances in the based on Jesus Christ Superstar and the whole trial song that was part of that.
Yeah, that was a pretty accurate depiction of that story, actually, according to my mom, who studies the Bible. She talked to me about everything that Pontius did, because like before I saw Jesus Christ Superstar the first time, I didn't know that Pilate was like giving people chances to do this, like to just like let Jesus go and like live his life continuously. So it's a very weird. It's very weird to call the Romans the villains, quote unquote, in that story, because all of the people turned on Jesus just very suddenly.
The
So
more
like,
things change, the more they stay the same.
oh yeah, I couldn't tie that to anything in recent events.
I couldn't tie that to many things in recent events.
Um, I too many. I don't know how to put this, but too many people villainize religion.
Yes. Granted, religion's done some pretty fucked up shit.
Oh, for sure.
I can recall a lot of stuff the Catholic Church has done.
But at the same time, there are, much like with any group, there's always the dick. So like, let's say there's just like a group of 5 people, right? And this is a pretty cool group. Like they do cool stuff. But there's this one dude in the group who's like a total dick to everybody, right? Do you then villainize the entire group for it? No, it's just the one dude, right? Okay, now conflate that to millions of people.
Actually, I think like over 1 billion people if we're
Yeah,
talking about Christianity in
yeah.
particular.
So that sort of like shows the ridiculousness of how people are villainizing it. Because while yes, evil people have done evil things in the name of Christianity, the same goes both ways. Like going back to the movie I watched, Jesus Revolution. That priest did a good thing and reached out to people who he wasn't familiar with before then. And that led to him owning one of the biggest churches at that time. So he does a good thing, and karma dictates something good happens to him. But he did that good thing out of the kindness of his own heart, and he even risked losing his entire congregation for it. So you have this story about you have this story finally about a man who does something good, and then I see people on forums who are like boycotting the movie because it's Christian, and yeah, that actually happened as well.
They were boycotting this amazing story because people believe in God?
Exactly, and like I don't believe in God. I love the movie. The movie was awesome. It was more than just a movie about God. It was a movie about people and how people react to what happened and like what happened to their lives. And it's such a real movie. It's so visceral and like the reactions are so genuine. All the actors did such an amazing job. And the guy who the pick is about, who's still alive today and is still preaching, he went on to the movie and he was like, yeah, and he like helped the actors really get into the nitty gritty of what really happened and how people felt, because the entire movie was so well put together to the point where it's no longer just about like, oh, it's a preacher who like does this thing and blah 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 blah, he gets rewarded. No, it's a real movie with real consequences, and people really like. There's a near death in the movie like several times, because that really happened in that time. So you see these things and you see people's reactions to it, and it allows you to really care about these people.
Yeah.
And then people are boycotting it just because it's a Christian movie.
It's not fair.
It's not fair at all. And then people then turn around and say, if you don't go and watch this movie, then you're bigoted. And I'm like, I don't have an interest in this movie, and I'm just bigoted because of it. Like, what?
People suck sometimes.
People are the worst sometimes. There have been multiple times where I lost all faith in humanity.
Yeah, that can happen sometimes.
Sometimes. Try it every
A
other
lot of the
week.
times.
God. I feel like Jesus Revolution teaches a lesson that more people need to follow, which is that we need to be able to love and respect each other. Like even if
Yeah.
even if we don't have the same beliefs or whatever, we need to learn how to love and respect each other despite having different beliefs or differing opinions on things.
Yeah, we this is what we should do.
I think it's also hilarious how a lot of people, and I know I'm going to probably get flack for this, but it needs to be said. A lot of people treat the gay community and like the pride community, I'll call them for now, like the super welcoming group who like love is love and like being able to express yourself, but then they'll turn around and like villainize these people who are just living their lives.
Yeah, I think one time where it's like Chris Pratt, I believe, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's homophobic because he goes to this homophobic church," and then and then said church comes out and is like, "Bro, he's never been here."
Yeah.
Just like that entire thing, just falsehoods. Maybe more information can come out about something different, but from all I see, Chris is just a dude who I also completely take back all criticism I had of him playing Mario because I actually,
Yeah, the movie was great.
yeah, the movie was awesome. Jack Black, I never doubted Jack Black.
You know who was a huge letdown in that movie for me?
Who?
Seth Rogen, Donkey Kong.
I mean, yeah, it is just Seth Rogen being Seth Rogen, but a monkey.
He even did the fucking the fucking classic Seth Rogen laugh. I'm joking. Anyways,
Back on Seth Rogen.
what? Well, we're gonna go from this like deep religious talk to just back to Seth Rogen. By the way.
No, it's just gonna be real quick. I want you to watch a very certain movie.
Oh God. What is it?
I think it's called Jobs.
Jobs?
Yeah, because I think it's a film. No, wait, no, it's Steve Jobs. Yeah, it's this 2015 drama film called Steve Jobs, and it's about Steve Jobs. And one of the main characters, Steve Wozniak, is played by Seth Rogen, and I just wanted to give that movie a shout out because it's Seth Rogen in a dramatic role, and he actually does a dramatic role really well. It's not just comedy.
Huh. Interesting.
But anyways, back to religion.
Seth fucking Rogen, dude. I feel like pushing away from the religious talk, I feel like as we're talking about the Mario movie, did you watch the Sonic the Hedgehog movies?
Yes, I did. They're actually good.
Yeah, both
I
of
think
them.
they were, I think they were the ones that really cemented the video game curse being broken. After Detective Pikachu
don't
that
say
it can.
Don't say that. Don't say that. You don't say that.
Knocked
After
on
Halo,
wood,
I don't trust that. I don't trust that phrase after the Halo TV series.
Fair enough. Completely fair enough.
I don't. I like, dude. I do agree that all these movies that are coming out about like, because you have the two classics, all right? You have Sonic and you have Mario, and they've both gotten like really good movies. And Sonic even got a second really good movie that was carried by Jim Carrey a little bit, but you know.
Jim Carrey, you can't expect him to not carry.
You can't expect him to not be the best part of any movie he's in. Oh my God, have you watched Truman Show? I watched it very recently.
Yes,
It blew my
Truman Show is good.
It blew my fucking mind. He's so good. He's such a good actor. He's so good. Jim, I love you. If you're watching this video somehow, Jim, marry me, please. Anyways. I'm bi, I can say it.
Oh, I know.
But anyways, getting off that. But yeah, those movies were very surprisingly good. The two Sonic movies. Like, I watched the first one and I was like, yeah, that was a good movie, but the second one's probably bad. No, whoever was playing Knuckles fucking killed it. Like,
Yeah, that's Idris Elba.
it was? Oh my god.
Yeah, that was Idris
Oh
Elba.
my god. Idris, if you're somehow watching this, no, I'm not gonna do the same joke.
Polycule with Idris Elba and Jim
dude,
Carrey.
dude, dream blunt rotation. Pratt as Mario, Idris Elba as Knuckles, and Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. And then Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. uh, uh, if you couldn't tell, I'm tired out of my mind right now.
Fair enough. I also am tired, autistic, and I just got done with an assload of Python stuff like last
Oh my
night.
god. Yeah, I've been working on. I've been working on a I've been working on a program for like a month now, and I still can't get it to fucking work. So I go to my teacher and I'm like, "Hey, can I have another week to do this?" And she looks at the code and she's like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty complex. I'll let you do it, and if you can bring it back to me and it's like working and everything, I'll get you like extra credit." And I'm like, "Hell yeah." So I just finished it. But then I realized there's a huge glaring. I realized the reason it took me so long is because I never actually ran one of the functions.
Yeah, that probably would have done it.
And so I slammed my head into a wall for 5 hours. I'm joking,
That's
but
completely fair.
it's the joys of programming. Yay!
I'm glad I dropped aerospace engineering and I'm now just going into fully mechanical engineering because then that means I never have to touch programming ever again.
I enjoy, like, even after all of that, I still very much enjoy programming. And I am going into computer science, so it makes sense. And like math and programming are my thing, but man, am I tired of looking at math and programming.
I yeah, it's like it's also like I love physics.
Uh huh.
But fuck physics class.
Yeah. It's like the same thing with me in music theory. Like when I was learning on my own, and I was able to do everything at my own pace, I really loved doing music theory stuff because it let me make more and better music. But once I went into a music theory class, I fucking hated it. Like, it was way too tedious. It became it became a chore to do, right? I think that's the big problem. Like, I lost interest in doing it because it became a chore instead of being something that I just enjoyed doing.
Yeah, that was that's definitely a thing.
I
Also,
feel like,
remember when this podcast was about religion?
man, I remember that, but it's not anymore. Because now you've gotten me on the American education system, because it's fucked. It
That's a lot of everything. Like
here's
speaking of American stuff, before we get on to tangents, do you know that almost every single other developed country has their government do the taxes for you?
yes. I think it is
Do you want to know
ridiculous.
why? Do you know why the U.S. doesn't do that?
What's that?
There are two causes: H&R Block and TurboTax.
Are you? Wait. So just so that they can make money, H&R Block and TurboTax. That's why.
They pay the government to
Oh,
not pass laws that have the government do the taxes for you.
fucking lobbyists actually hate it.
Huh?
Anyways, American
It,
education is very middle of the road in terms of like how developed we are as a country for our education system. But here's the problem. We have a system in America where we can we have such a plethora of access to knowledge now through the internet that there is so much you can learn in like 5 minutes that you won't learn for like a month in a classroom, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm like, why? Why is it that students specifically are so apathetic towards actually learning stuff. But then once they're like just looking up random shit that they're interested in. It's suddenly like the most interesting thing in the world. And I nailed it. I think I nailed it.
All right, spill the beans.
It's because students don't give a shit about school. And that's a problem. And I'll tell you why. It's because if they don't care about school, they won't do their work, they'll get bad grades, and they won't get a higher education. That's a problem. So here's the deal. We need to get kids to care about school again. And how do we do that? There are a couple of different ideas. One is to get rid of school, which I don't recommend. That's not an idea.
That's not a good idea.
That's a very bad idea.
That is a genuinely dreadful idea.
A second idea is to teach the core classes up to the start of high school. The requirement for the 4 core classes of math, science, history, and English, I think are very good for elementary school and arguably for middle school as well. However, when you get into algebra and trigonometry, that's when it becomes an issue. Because not everyone uses algebra and trigonometry in their just random everyday lives. And it gets even worse during college. Because we are teaching music majors harsh mathematics. Stuff that they will likely never use in their entire music careers. Like, why? I'm learning physics, so I'm going into physics, right, for my science course. But that's just because I know I'm going to use physics if I ever make a game. The problem is, many computer scientists who are doing, like, IT work, for example, or data structuring, aren't going to use physics like I am going to, hopefully. So why is it a forced teaching method? Like, why is it that I understand, like, teaching STEM, science, tech, engineering, mathematics. Great. Love it. And I love that schools are becoming more STEM positive. Problem. The 4 core classes that we take. Elementary school, perfect. I don't want to change elementary school. I think it's good as it is. Middle school, it could be argued that certain things can be changed in middle school, but I think in high school is where we need the harshest change. Because there are just classes that are not necessary in high school that you have to take to pass. So it becomes it becomes a chore to do because you're no longer interested. And that's the third thing. How do you make the work interesting? First thing, don't make it work. If that makes sense. Do you know, I'm sure you do, but do you know, like, the Crash Course videos or, like, the TED Ed riddles?
I love Crash Course. I love watching Crash Course. Most especially history, because John Green is a goat.
Yeah, but do you also know about, like, the TED Ed riddles online?
I am not aware of TED Ed riddles, though.
The TED Ed riddles are just, like, a lot of riddles about, like, probability and mathematics hidden under the guise of just a riddle, right? So,
yeah,
it's that sort of stuff that I'm talking about. And, like, you know how you got those songs? Like, do you still remember the area and perimeter of a circle song from back in, like, middle school?
I don't think I ever learned a song like that.
I believe I did. It was a rap song about the formulas for the area and perimeter of circle, and I just know them by heart now.
What is it like that? Kanye West? No, it was the Soulja Boy parody, but with the Euphrates River. River.
No fucking way. No, somebody made that?
Yes.
Euphrates River. What the fuck?
We'll DM it to you, and you can
I
listen
would
to it after
love
this
to watch
podcast.
that. But no, I don't think so. It was a completely original song. But then like you'll have those sorts of mnemonics that help you understand it, right? But then the other thing that I would recommend to make it like non-work is to allow people to have more freedom to finish the work in their own time, right? So remember how we took those programming classes in oh, thank you. Remember how we took those programming classes in high school?
Yes, I love Mr. Keel,
Yeah, he's
but fuck
awesome.
those programming classes.
He's awesome, but I'm not gonna like dox the man. Um, but that's why I'm like deliberately not saying the name of the school. I don't want to. But the reason that I think I enjoyed those so much was because it was a very at your own pace teaching method that he used. So you had your own time to finish all of the. Now obviously there were still deadlines, but it was very at your own pace. Like take your own time to do the work, right? That's the same thing that my current math teacher is doing as well, where it's very at your own pace with some hard deadlines. So that's another way to just like make it less like work, make it more like when you have time, do a little bit of work, and then maybe come back to it later. Instead of, here's your homework for the weekend, right?
Right.
So I think that's the sort of stuff. And I understand why school is built this way, and it's because of the need of office jobs. But that's a problem. Because if people become apathetic, we won't get the incredible scientific like minds that are there. Like we could have passed by the kid who would have solved cancer because he got so bored with science during his time in high school. Like it's that sort of stuff that I think about to where like man, it would really suck if we passed by this person who could have made like this huge discovery or was like the next Beatles like because they just got bored and like apathetic towards school. So it sucks. It really does suck.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't know. We've been going for about an hour now, and I think it's very interesting because whenever I don't think people understand that this is just kind of how we act when we talk with each other, just like in regular life.
It really is.
This is pretty much just we are now recording how our little conversations that just go off on random directions. Ugh, I I I do hope our viewership understands that I want to do this because I want our not because I want like some sort of amount of fame, but because I feel like we talk about things that can be important, but then like it kind of isn't. We're just two college kids. We don't
Yeah,
know better.
we are we're just here. We're just vibing.
We're just here. We're a depressed kid and an autistic kid just talking about random bullshit.
Don't forget, also depressed and autistic.
Good God. I love how we have the depressed insomniac and the depressed autist just hanging out. Uh, well, I think this is a good place to just sort of end it off because we've been talking for about an hour, and I also have to get some math work done.
Yep, and I need to actually get my laundry done.
I remember that you were like, "Hey, I have to leave at like in like 45 minutes once we start recording." It's been a full hour. Your laundry's been sitting there for 15 minutes. So, thank you guys for watching or listening, however you watch these little random videos that we make. I'll see you guys in 2.5 years. Bye bye.
All right, bye.
Could you imagine? All right. I'll see you around, dude.